You're about to enter a room where most men never get invited. Not because they don't want to, but because they'll never even know it exists.
This isn't about pickup lines. It's not about confidence. It's not even about looks. This is about power, and the dangerous, delicate way it moves between a man and a woman. There's a reason why some men leave a permanent mark in a woman's mind, while others are forgotten before they finish their drink. It's not an accident. It's not luck. It's not chemistry. It's architecture. Every look, every pause, every word, calculated, weighted, measured, a strategic dance, not a casual exchange. You weren't born to chase. You were built to provoke, to challenge, to unsettle. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be remembered. And if you understand what you're about to hear, you won't just be remembered, you'll become an imprint, a ghost in her system. Because the truth is this: women don't crave answers. They crave activation, emotions, contradictions, internal conflict. They crave the man who touches their subconscious, not just their hand. And there's only one way to get there. You speak in codes, in shadows, in questions that trigger thoughts she didn't know she had. You don't ask to enter her world. You install yourself in it, not through aggression, not through approval, but through curiosity. You control the dynamic without ever appearing to. That's the game. And most men never even learn the rules, because they were raised on noise. Be nice, be direct, be clear. Clarity is for banks. Seduction lives in ambiguity. You don't make her feel safe, you make her feel alive. Understand this: a woman is not waiting for the perfect man. She's waiting for the interesting man, the one who challenges the structure of her reality, the one who doesn't fit neatly into the box of predictable masculinity. She's heard it all before: the compliments, the praise, the generic flirtation. But what happens when you say something that makes her nervous? What happens when your question echoes in her mind hours after you're gone? That's the moment you stop being a stranger. That's the moment you become a trigger. And the trigger is more powerful than attraction. Attraction fades. Triggers stay. Let me be clear. This is not manipulation. This is not cruelty. This is art. You're not playing with her. You are awakening her. But to do that, you must first undo yourself. Forget what you've learned. Forget the rules, the scripts, the rehearsed charm. Start from silence, from stillness, from the space most men are afraid to occupy, the space where presence becomes pressure, where your eyes say more than your words. This is the arena where real influence is born. And it begins with the first sentence, the first question. But before I give it to you, you must understand something deeper. A question is not just words, it's a mirror, a spell, a disruption. When you ask the right question, you don't just receive an answer. You restructure her perception of you. She'll look at you differently, not as a man, but as a possibility, someone dangerous, someone real, someone she can't predict. And unpredictability, when paired with emotional intelligence, is lethal. You don't make her laugh. You make her feel something she can't name. It's not about getting her attention. It's about earning her obsession. Do you think Casanova walked into a room and begged to be liked? No. He entered like he already knew something she didn't. Like he held a secret she'd spend the night trying to decode. And that's your job now. You become the man whose words unravel her, one sentence at a time. You're not starting a conversation. You're creating a psychological echo, one that stays. So take a breath. Forget the old ways. This is the new language, built not on answers, but on questions that ignite. Welcome to the first move of the real game. And remember, this knowledge isn't for everyone. But you're not everyone. They've been lying to you from the beginning. Be yourself. Be kind. Just be honest and respectful. The right woman will see your value. No, she won't. Not if you speak like the rest. Not if you enter her world with the same script she's heard 1,000 times. Understand this. Women are not walking around, waiting for another polite stranger to say, "Hey, I think you're beautiful." She's heard it. She's immune to it. The compliments, the flowers, the overused emojis, they blur into noise. You think you're being thoughtful. She sees desperation. You think you're being clear. She feels nothing. Why? Because clarity isn't always king, especially in seduction. Seduction is not about giving. It's about withholding just enough. It's about suggestion, mystery, silence used with precision. The world told you to be simple, but simplicity is only powerful when it hides complexity beneath. You were taught to avoid being misunderstood. But the greatest seducers are misunderstood on purpose. They don't explain, they imply. They let her chase the meaning. Because the moment she's trying to figure you out, she's already invested. Let me put this in perspective. She's been approached by hundreds of men. Different faces. Same tactics. Can I buy you a drink? Where are you from? You look amazing. It's not offensive. It's boring. And boredom is the death of desire. Women don't reject you because you're unattractive. They reject you because you're predictable. Every time you follow the manual, you announce, I am like the others. And if you're like the others, she doesn't need to open up. She doesn't need to think. She doesn't need to feel. She just hits autopilot, smiles politely, escapes. Do you think that's attraction? No, that's self-preservation. Now you ask, but shouldn't I be respectful? Shouldn't I show her I care? Of course, but not in the way you think. Respect isn't being polite. Respect is being real. She respects the man who can make her question herself. She respects the man who doesn't beg for her time, but creates an atmosphere she doesn't want to leave. Mass advice told you to be available, attentive, transparent, but attention without intrigue is wasted. Availability without mystery is forgettable. If she knows everything about you in the first 10 minutes, there's nothing left to explore. She doesn't want your resume. She wants your presence. Not overexposed, not overly eager, just aware, hyper-present, calm, unshakable. And that's the rarest thing in the world today. A man who doesn't react, he responds. A man who doesn't rush to prove himself. Because he knows, proof is for people who need permission. You don't need permission. You need friction. Friction creates fire. So stop thinking the goal is to make her feel comfortable. No, the goal is to make her feel awake. And sometimes that means making her uncomfortable. Just enough to pull her out of her routine. You want to see her eyes change? Don't give her what she expects. Give her what activates her. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men are boring because they're trying not to be. They try too hard, talk too much, laugh too loud. Everything becomes performance. But the master knows. Silence is a spotlight. You speak less, and she leans in. You don't qualify yourself, and she starts wondering why. You don't ask obvious questions, and suddenly you're not just another guy. You're a question mark. And question marks are irresistible. Because in a world of men offering answers, you're the one offering a deeper question. You see, she doesn't want easy. She wants meaning. And meaning is not served in a sentence. It's built in the pause between two glances. You want her mind? Don't just enter the room. Shift the gravity of it. That happens when you reject the common path. When you stop repeating what society told you is good male behavior. You think you're being respectful, but she feels you're being safe. And safe is code for forgettable. The masculine energy that drives her wild is not the one that asks, am I doing this right? It's the one that silently communicates. I know what I'm doing, whether you understand it or not. You want to turn her on? Then stop trying to be the kind of man she expects. Become the man she didn't see coming. The one who doesn't follow the rhythm. The one who sets it. The one who listens closely, but reveals very little. The one who notices everything, but keeps his center untouched. You become this by unlearning everything that made you agreeable. The world told you being liked is power. They were wrong. Being remembered is power. You can say the right things. Be charming. Be generous. But if she's heard it before, it won't matter. The world feeds her compliments. You feed her questions, doubts, fascination. You inject tension, and tension is the birthplace of intimacy. Not comfort, not approval. Tension. If you master that, you don't have to chase. She'll follow the tension back to you. Because it's rare. Because it's addictive. Because it feels like something real. This is the lie they sold you. That women want predictability. That comfort is love. No. Predictability is control. Comfort is sleep. And you're not here to put her to sleep. You're here to wake her up. That means you'll need courage. To hold your silence when others speak. To look her in the eye and not flinch. To say less and mean more. Because you're not here to impress her. You're here to remind her of something deeper. Something raw, uncomfortable, true. And that truth is this. You're not like the others. You don't want her approval. You want her attention. And once you have it, you turn it into influence. You don't beg to be seen. You become the thing that's impossible to ignore. So forget the flowers. Forget the small talk. Forget the nice guy script. It's over. You're not trying to be liked. You're here to be remembered. Words are not tools. They are weapons. And the most dangerous weapon in your arsenal is a question. Not any question. Not the tired, shallow ones she's been asked 100 times. Where are you from? What do you do? What kind of music do you like? These don't penetrate. They don't stir. They're placeholders, verbal wallpaper. You want to enter her subconscious? Ask better questions. But first, understand what a question really is. A question is a frame, a lens, a psychological trigger. It's not a request for information. It's an invitation to feel. You're not gathering facts. You're planting ideas. A well-crafted question does something that no statement ever can. It bypasses the logic filter and slides straight into her emotional core. It's not about knowing her. It's about activating her. Here's the truth. She doesn't need another man to understand her. She needs a man who can disrupt her, who can take her out of routine, who can twist her perception of herself, who can make her wonder, for the first time in months, what is happening to me? And that begins with the art of the question. But what makes a question powerful? Timing, tension, precision. You don't throw it carelessly. You aim it like a dagger. You wait for the silence, and then you drop it. The silence matters, because silence is not emptiness, it's pressure. And a good question, placed inside silence, becomes explosive. You ask, you shut up, you let it land. Most men ruin their own question by explaining it, by laughing after it, by softening it. You don't soften, you deliver. Because a real question doesn't need context. It creates context. Let me show you something. Ask her, with presence, with stillness. When was the last time you felt completely out of control? Feel that? That's not curiosity. That's a trigger. That question doesn't just invite a story, it invites a sensation. You're not talking to her surface anymore. You're waking something else, something beneath. And that's the key. The feminine doesn't respond to logic. It responds to sensation. So every question must do one of three things. Create sensation, create tension, create ambiguity. Ambiguity is gold. Because the moment she can't quite label what you're doing, she starts thinking about it. And thought is the first hook. You want her to feel drawn in, without knowing why. You want her replaying the conversation when you're already gone. Because the real game isn't played face to face. It's played in memory. You don't chase, you haunt. That's what great questions do. They don't get answered. They get remembered. Let's go deeper. Never ask a question that can be answered in one word. That's a dead end. Instead, ask questions that open doors. Questions that flirt with her past, her desires, her darkness. Is there a part of you you've never let anyone see? What's the most dangerous thing you've ever felt and wanted more of? Do you think people fall in love with presence or mystery? These are not games. They're disruptions, because they force her to access parts of herself that are normally off limits. You're not asking about her hobbies. You're asking about her contradictions. And the feminine lives in contradiction. She wants freedom and control. She wants wildness and safety. She wants to be seen and remain mysterious. You ask the questions that bring those tensions to life. When you do, you become more than a man. You become a mirror, a reflection of the parts of her she secretly craves to explore. Now understand this. A question is not just what you say, it's how you become while asking it. You ask with calm, with presence, with total control of your own nervous system. No fidgeting, no over-explaining, no performance. You're the gravity in the room. And your question is the shift in orbit. This is how you create a psychological seduction. Not with facts, not with flattery, with precision energy. Every time you ask a question, you're giving her a choice. Escape or descend. And if you've calibrated the tension just right, she'll descend. Willingly. Into the conversation. Into the moment. Into you. You want to leave a mark? Make her answer something she's never even asked herself. You don't ask for her secrets. You awaken them. Not through pressure, but through presence. You're not interviewing. You're guiding. She doesn't even realize what's happening. But her guard is already lowering. Because a good question doesn't knock on the door. It slips under it. You don't impress her. You imprint her. One question. One pause. One unshakable presence at a time. And here's the deeper layer. Asking these questions doesn't just seduce her, it evolves you. Because the more refined your questions become, the more magnetic you become. Most men are walking answers. You're a living question. That's what pulls her in. That's what makes you impossible to label. And the moment she can't label you, she can't dismiss you, she's in, whether she admits it or not. So start refining. Sharpen your words like blades, but always hold them with calm hands. You're not rushing. You're sculpting the space between question and reaction. That space is where her mind opens. That space is where you plant the seed. And the seed is never what she hears, it's what she feels after. A little heat, a little curiosity, a subtle ache for more. Congratulations. That ache is your signature. You didn't force it. You didn't beg for it. You designed it. Welcome to the art of the question. The scalpel of the seductive mind. The whisper in the back of her thoughts. Use it carefully, because it's not a game. It's a psychological invasion, dressed as conversation. And only the man with discipline, stillness, and clarity should wield it. Because it's powerful. Because it's real. And because once you learn how to do this, you will never be forgotten again. There are questions, and then there are keys. Keys that unlock something buried. Something she doesn't even talk about with herself. Something that shifts her body before her brain catches up. That's the goal. To bypass her surface. To trigger depth. To spark obsession not through words, but through the echo those words leave behind. What follows are 10 of the most psychologically potent questions you can use. But understand, this is not a script. This is a blade. And a blade in the wrong hands cuts the wrong way. So as you read these, don't just memorize them. Feel them. Feel the space they open. Feel the silence they demand. Feel the version of you that needs to emerge to deliver them correctly. This isn't flirtation. This is strategic emotional architecture. Let's begin. When was the last time you felt something you couldn't explain? Not describe. Not understand. Explain. You're pointing her inward, to the moment emotion overwhelmed logic, to the kind of feeling that leaves fingerprints on the body. This question doesn't seek information. It summons a sensation. Use it early. Deliver it with calm. Watch how her eyes move. If they drift, you've struck something. And now she's no longer in control. She's inside the memory. And you are the guide. What part of you have you never let anyone fully see, and why? This is not about trauma. It's about ownership. You're not asking to fix her. You're giving her a stage she's never stood on. The part of her that's kept in the shadows, you just lit it up. Do not interrupt her answer. Do not jump in with your story. Hold the space. This question builds intimacy through risk. And the man who can hold her emotional risk without flinching becomes unforgettable. Have you ever met someone who felt familiar the moment you saw them? She may laugh. She may resist. Doesn't matter. This question isn't about logic. It taps into imprinting, into soul memory, into the unexplainable pull. You're setting a psychological foundation, priming her for the idea that you two are not random, that you may be a return. It's not about her answer. It's about the seed you just planted. What's something you've always been drawn to, but never dared to explore? Desire lives in tension, in edges. This question invites her to admit the part of her that craves the forbidden, the unknown, the part of her she controls in public, but dreams about in silence. You want to see her drop the performance? Ask this, and hold the tension when she answers. That tension becomes the thread between you. Pull it gently. If no one could judge you, what's the first thing you'd do differently? This is psychological permission. You're giving her a world without consequence and asking her to move inside it. Most women are constantly navigating social expectation. You just cut the rope. Now she's free in theory, and the emotions that surface in that freedom, that's the real her. You're not giving her advice. You're handing her a mirror, one she may not have looked into before. What do you think men almost always misunderstand about you? This question reverses power. Now she's the expert. You're not analyzing her. You're inviting her to reveal her frustration, and you're listening with presence. The secret here? You're allowing her to express the part of herself that's been misread, ignored, flattened. And once she opens that door, you don't just see her, you witness her. Very few men ever get that far. Is there a version of yourself that only exists when no one's watching? This one is dangerous, because it exposes the mask. Everyone has one, but most people don't want to admit it. If she hesitates, that's good. Hesitation means depth. You've tapped into identity. Now you're not just in conversation. You're in confrontation with her own image. And if she shares, you're in. What's something that once scared you, that now turns you on? Fear and arousal live close together. This question pulls her into memory, sensation, and evolution. It shows her you're not afraid of her darkness, you're curious about it. Delivered correctly, it creates heat. Not sexual yet, but energetic. You're not trying to seduce her body. You're waking up the part of her that wants to be seduced. If I asked you to show me the one thing that makes you feel most alive, what would you do? This is embodiment. Not just talk, action, movement. She'll imagine it. She'll step into it mentally. And in doing so, she's feeling it now. You are now linked to that energy. She may not know why, but she will feel it when she looks at you. You've become the symbol of vitality, not by force, but by design. What's the one truth about yourself you've never said out loud? The final key. It's direct, but only use it when the space is ripe, when the tension is humming, when silence has weight. This question is not for strangers. It's for the edge, the moment right before closeness flips into surrender. She may laugh, deflect, try to dodge. Let her, and hold, because if she does answer, you are now inside the deepest vault. Not by manipulation, but by invitation. These are the 10, not to be used all at once, not to be thrown around casually. They are chess moves, not checkers. Each one demands a version of you that is present, grounded, and silent when needed. You don't use them to get something. You use them to build something. Tension, trust, craving. Because when done right, a question is not a tool. It's a trigger. And if you can master that art, she won't just talk to you. She'll start unraveling. And she'll never forget who handed her the thread.